Happy to be joined by Mike Biggie Rhodes, who's been one of the main training partners for Ben Askren in his preparation for his boxing fight on April 17th against Jake Paul. Mike, how's it going, man? How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
No complaints. Big opportunity here for Ben next Saturday against Jake Paul, like I mentioned. I wanted to start first with, when did you decide to start working with Ben and make up this training camp? Because I know you've been a big component of it, like I mentioned.
Honestly, it wasn't on my radar of things to do. I moved back to Iowa, so I still live in Iowa currently. I'm in the midst of, my own little thing with the fire department there in Hiawatha where I'm at. And Ben just hit me up one day out of the blue. I didn't think it was a real thing, but he goes, "Hey, how attached are you to Cedar Rapids?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "No, like, can you move here?" I'm like, "No, I just moved from there." He's like, "No, but I want you to coach me through this camp." And I'm like, I have a job. I'm in a firefighter program. I'm training myself and other fighters at Hard Drive. There's a lot of things that I would have to move around to make it happen. And he goes, "All right, well, get it done and let me know." And I'm like, okay, so I kind of jumped in. I think it's been little over 2 months that we've been training together. And it just got kind of thrown together and we just made it work.
Now, are you his head coach? Like, how did the coaching work and stuff? Like, are you like organizing who he gets to work with and all that? Or is that something you guys, mutually have decided together?
I don't want to take the title as like a head coach, because that's not, kind of my role. I would say Ben has kind of been the lead of everything, but, and I would say that only as like organizing stuff. But, he's just kind of turned over his training when I'm in town to me. He worked with Scott Cushman a little bit, and I know Duke came in for a couple practices, but, they have so many fighters fighting right now, and they've been on the move for the past couple weeks. And so that's part of the reason why I was brought in is, I'm somebody that Ben trusts to be a good training partner, to be a good coach. I've also obviously been doing a lot of pad work and mitt work with him. So that's kind of how that got brought along. And then, these other opportunities to work with other coaches just came into the picture. And obviously, like I said, because I don't see myself as like the head coach, like I have no ego in the fact that like all these other really good coaches and all these other people are bringing things to the table. And so I think that just kind of made it work is I was able to be available for those sessions so I could see what was going on with these other coaches. And so we could take things that we wanted to use from them and then, obviously get rid of things that we didn't think would work well for Ben. And so that's just kind of been my role, is kind of facilitating it all while being, a sparring partner and, somewhat of a coach as well.
I take it you didn't go down to LA when he went to go train with Freddie Roach, or did you go with him?
No, I went. Yeah. So I've been along for everything. I think, that's the reason why most people would consider me like the head coach in this situation. As far as like, I've been the only consistent throughout the entire camp. I've started the camp. I've been here with K9. I was in LA with Freddie. I did all the work with him when we were in Vegas along with Coach O. And now that we're back here in Wisconsin, kind of, finishing things off, I'm here obviously again. So I've been all over the freaking place with this guy over the last 2 months. So, yeah.
Well, let me ask you the question. What are people getting wrong with Askren here? Because it's surprising to me that we're seeing so many people, even in the combat sports community, just saying Ben's got no shot, he's got no striking. Like, how has it been sort of, getting to be in this camp with him and seeing the improvements he's made?
First of all, the majority of the people, especially like in the combat community, a lot of them just don't like Ben, a lot of them are haters. A lot of them are people who would never reach the level that he's reached in the sport. And so they hold some kind of grudge or something against him. Maybe they thought they should have had his shine or had his career highlights. But the fact of the matter is that the guy's been better than, the majority of the guys at the sport that they're in. So for them to speak negatively about him, I just think it reflects more about them than it does about Ben, which is the fact of the matter is that Ben's a competitor, right? You can do fighting, you can do whatever you want to. Ben is always going to compete. He's been able to do it at the highest levels. I mean, the highest of highest levels, making the Olympic team and stuff like that. So If Ben has a singular focus, Ben can get really good at stuff. He picks stuff up very fast. People don't realize that he went from wrestling to MMA in such a short amount of time, and he wasn't like some super young guy at the time. But other than that, we've made strides. The thing is people want him to look a certain way. They want him to punch a certain way. They want him to move and act and talk a certain way. But that's not Ben Askren, right? And that's not the reason why people want to tune in and watch him, whether they want to watch him win or watch him lose. But to see the improvement, because I've been here since the jump. Me and Ben got our Rufus Sport about the same time back in the day, like 8 or 9 years ago at this point. And I've seen the evolution. But in MMA, he never had to punch. Why would he try? That's the trap that most wrestlers fall into today, is they try to be punchers. They want to be strikers. Then they forget how to wrestle and they lose that wrestling shape. Ben never needed to do that. And so Ben was always confident in that skill set. So now that we can't technically wrestle, we've been focused on the striking. Now, is it going to look as if, Canelo Alvarez is boxing or something like that? Obviously not, right? But that's not our goal. That wasn't the point. Like Ben has been saying in interviews, he's not trying to be a boxer. He's just trying to beat a YouTube guy who has moved into boxing. So is it necessarily going to be the prettiest technique and stuff that you guys have ever seen? Probably not. But that's the thing that's going to make him difficult to fight, because he's not on that boxing rhythm. He's not going to have that boxing stance or traditional movement, which in our end, I think will be a factor on our side.
We talked about the haters towards Ben. Have you gotten any sort of backlash for this with working with Ben or anything? Just from, you get the idiot fans being like, he's got no chance and all that. Like, have you had to deal with that at all on social media?
Not too much. Not unless I share something. Most of the stuff I get is just, from the people that actually know that I'm helping him. People are like, well, you better have him ready, or you better have him lose to this YouTube guy, or you better be doing this, and is he going to be hitting like this? And I'm like, dude, we're training. We're putting in the work. You know what I mean? So the result and all that stuff will be the result. But I can tell you this, Ben is taking this 100% serious, right? He won't have an excuse whether he wins or he loses. We've been putting in the work. We've putting in the time, trying to perfect what we can in the amount of time that we have. And that's about it. But I get that all the time. People are like, well, you better make sure he wins, or, we really want him to do this, or is he going to win? I'm like, what do you think I want him to do? You think I want him to lose? It just doesn't make sense for the most part. But I've kind of tried to stay out of the way. And so, you didn't even know I was in LA. I took one picture with Freddie and that kind of thing. But this isn't my show. This isn't about me.
It's about Ben. Yeah.
Yeah, it's about Ben. So even when the other camera crews come in and stuff like that, I move out of the way. I let these other coaches, get their camera time, their pictures, their whatever. I'm just here to help Ben. So this isn't to blow myself up or bring any publicity to me. This is 100% about Ben, and I'm just here to help him.
I'm sure you noticed as well that the betting line on the fight is reversed. Ben was an underdog. I think he was as high as plus 170. Now he's the betting favorite. Do you think that's because of the press conference? Do you think it's because he's working with Freddie Roach? Because it seems like people are coming around now, whereas before it was Ben has no chance.
Yeah, I think people are just fickle. I just think it's a bunch of everything. First of all, people don't like Ben, right? They don't like him, the person. So then they probably bet against him, right? Well, then they realize how big of a, douchebag people seem to think that Jake is. So then they bet against him, and then they see Ben with Freddie. And it's, I think the biggest, turn for this whole thing is that the people that are really tuning into this fight don't really know much about fighting. So it's either you like one guy or you like the other guy, or you want to bet against one or another, so I don't really know what's going on with the line. But to me, any line that doesn't have Ben favored is ridiculous.
And the other thing too is that, there's been kind of this narrative, and you obviously see this from the idiot fans regardless, oh, Ben needs the money or whatever. Ben's doing quite well outside the cage from what I know. And also he already had an embarrassing loss to Masvidal, right? I don't think he's going to put himself in a situation where he's going to be, look bad again, right? You feel like people are kind of overlooking that obviously he's not going to take something he doesn't feel very confident in.
Yeah, I think that's a part of it, is people think that, but Ben is probably one of the smartest, if not like, the smartest like MMA fighters to kind of do the thing, to do it as far as like outside business stuff. His wrestling academies are all over Wisconsin. You'd be hard pressed to find another wrestling club that develops as many Division I, commits and stuff that they do. The amount of national champions and state champions and the highest level of wrestling is coming through Ben's Academy, and they just opened another one. Obviously with crypto and all of his podcasts and stuff like that. Trust me, his portfolio is very diverse. And so if people are saying this is for the money, they're dumb. Like, he doesn't need it. But when you come to someone with an idea of fighting someone who's not actually been in the fight game, right? I'm going to call him a fighter. Like, I haven't taken Jake lightly at all. He's a YouTuber who is now choosing to put his money, time, and resources into becoming whatever level of boxer he's able to reach. So we're taking him serious. But when you come to a fighter who has fought the guys that Ben has, and you say, hey, I'm going to give you this large lump sum of money to fight this guy, like, why wouldn't you take it? I think everyone that opportunity didn't knock on their doorstep.
One question that came up as well was the hip surgery that he had to undergo, and how is he going to look? Like, how has he looked in the gym, just based after everything he's gone through with the injuries, and obviously he's a bit older now. Like, what's sort of your assessment of how he's been looking in the gym?
He's looked better. A lot of people don't know, and Ben would never use it as an excuse to, take away a loss or make a win look better or anything like that. But he couldn't bend over for a long time. The guy was having trouble putting on socks and shoes, and he was still, competing at the highest level. But he also knew that most likely after a hip surgery, until recent studies and stuff, the Muay Thai fighter, I can't remember his name right now. But until he kind of came with the knowledge of what this surgery actually would allow Ben to do after it, I don't think it was something that Ben really wanted to do, because he knew once he did, it would just alter, his life, his quality of life. But after, seeing how this surgery was done in the recovery process, he had that surgery. But he's a totally different athlete now. And I'm not just saying that, but like he can actually move better. His other hip isn't hurting because he's favoring the other one. We haven't had any pain in the hip. And we've been able to work. So, I mean, the workload that he's put in for this fight is up there with some of the ones that he's been able to have, for some of his championship level fights without the pain that, he would subsequently have from his hip.
What about training partners? You mentioned K9, yourself. Who else did Ben get to work with, or anyone you can reveal? Because I know obviously you don't want to let everyone know who you're working with.
No, we kept it pretty simple, man. He did a lot of sparring with K9 Bunders' son, actually. He's a boxer. He's an amateur boxer, and K9 brought him in, and he did some work with him. And then the bulk end of the sparring was done with me. And then he got to spar with a couple guys at Freddy's when we were there. Some of the guys just kind of gave him a look. Some of the guys gave him some really good work. One of the guys he got to spend a little bit of time with, not too much, was Gabe Rosado, who's a boxing, been up there in the top with some of the top boxers in the world. So he actually got to spar with him. And then afterwards, Gabe, worked with him, gave him some pointers and stuff like that. But we just kind of kept the typical kind of Rufus Sport-ish camp. We don't really go out and about too much, but I was able to give him, a pretty good sparring boxing look. And that's kind of how we did. He did work with those other coaches, and Freddie was a fun one to work with and to be around. He's a funny guy, man, Freddie, but it was a good time. It's been a good camp.
And as far as I know, you and Tyron Woodley will be in his corner, correct?
Correct. Yeah. A bunch of stuff, has been going on with the promotion and moving parts, obviously, with COVID and stuff like that. So they brought us down to two people. And so it'll be myself, Tyron Woodley, in the corner.
I think most people looking at this fight, at least from my vantage point, I'm curious to get your thoughts, feel like if Ben's going to win this, it's either going to be a late finish or it's going to be a decision. Is that kind of what you're thinking? Because Ben not really known for his power, so to speak, when it comes to the striking.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. Would I be surprised if something else happened? No. like I said, I've been training with Ben for a long time, and as much as Ben doesn't look like he hits very hard, it's not always about how hard you get hit, it's when you get hit. You know what I mean? So Ben's not known for being a puncher because he never had to be. But in the training room, he's sparred with the highest level of MMA strikers, right? Anthony Pettis, myself, Eric Koch, Rick Glenn, Pascal Kraus. You just name the guys that came through Rufus Sport. And Ben had, all the fights start on the feet. And so he's learned how to be defensively savvy. I mean, look at he's fought Douglas Lima and all these other
Kreshkov. Yeah, he's had a lot of that's the thing. He's had a lot of fight experience. Whereas Nate Robertson, I mean, he's fought an NBA player, an ex-NBA player, actually, a guy who's same age as Ben.
So I think that's kind of the misconception of what's going on. But Ben can hit, man, and it might not be the prettiest, and it doesn't necessarily look like he's throwing the hardest because he just doesn't have that physicality in his build. But if your defense is off and you make a move, you zig when you should have zagged, like it just takes a punch to graze that button. You just got to find that spot. So if something happens where Ben finishes him beforehand, I wouldn't be surprised, but we're going to drown him. So if he wants to quit, we'll walk him to the doorstep and let him quit. If it's a TKO later on, that's great. If it's a decision, that's great. We just want to win. Ultimately, as competitors, we just want to win. So I don't think Ben would care how it went down, but as long as his hand got raised and he cashed that check and he's out of there, I think he'll be good to go.
Before we get out of here, what's the latest with you? You talked about the firefighting stuff. I imagine you're still working through that, or what's the plan after this fight as far as you?
I'm going to go back home, get out of this car. I've been in this car for 2.5 months. I've been driving up to Milwaukee once a week, staying 5 days, driving back just so I can go to and attend my firefighter training every Wednesday.
Oh, wow. So you've been doing both then. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. I'm in a program, man. I can't dip out on that. And obviously that's kind of the next chapter in my life is, trying to become a full-time firefighter. Right now I'm at a volunteer station. As of June 13th, I'll take my firefighter 1 exam. So then I can be certified on that end. And then I have to look at getting certified as an EMT. That's the next stage. And then I'll stay at this volunteer department, Hiawatha Fire Department. Shout out to my guys, my duty crew 1. And just kind of work my way through the system, get my experience, and then eventually try to get hired on full time somewhere. Other than that, I'm a little heavy these days, I was
gonna say, yeah. They don't call you Biggie for nothing, right? So.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely big Biggie right now, but I was doing good on the weight loss before I started helping Ben, but being on the road a lot, kind of focusing on his training, kind of put me back a little bit. But I'm gonna get working with Eric Pena on my nutrition and stuff when this is done. And I'm actually probably going to take a fight at heavyweight.
Interesting. Okay, I was going to ask you about your fight career because I know you're coming off a win in your last one. I want to say 2019 was your last fight, right?
Yeah, I fought in November of 2019. I won the CFFC 205-pound belt. And we were trying to get something else scheduled, but then COVID kind of shut us down. And then, just fights for the most part are just kind of hard to come by. And especially being a tough fight, not a lot of people are seeking me out to fight, so we just got to figure out what it is because I'm on a 3-fight winning streak. It's not like I'm losing or something like that, I think I just need a fight to get relevant again and then just to get my body back moving in that realm of things and get back down to where I can make 205 and get a fight. So hopefully like August, July, August, September, somewhere around there, maybe I can get something, whether it's, a heavyweight or a catch weight with someone who's normally at 205 or something like that, a short notice thing. And that'll probably be, something that'll set something bigger up for myself. But I got a little fight left in me, man. I've been doing it for a while now and it just kind of is what it is at this point. I'm chasing that goal, but it's not the only goal in my life anymore. So I'm growing up a little bit, I say.
Yeah, and just to give people some context, I mean, you fought Robert Whittaker. I think a lot of people forget that he's headlining the UFC card next week. Might be in a good position to fight for that title again. So you've been in there with the who's who, man. So I mean, it's not due to lack of competition where you're at right now.
And my now jiu-jitsu coach, we're under Rafael Lovato Jr.
Are you? Oh yeah, that's right. I was keeping tabs on that. That must be interesting.
Yeah, it's really cool actually. The first seminar he did, he came up to Rufus Sport last October, and I actually came up and attended it, and I hit him up beforehand and just let him know that I would be there, and I was looking forward to training with him and stuff like that, and we got to roll a bunch. I think at that point I might have only been like a purple belt or something like that when we fought, and since then I've obviously gotten my black belt and stuff, so I kind of wanted to just feel that grappling more. Since I made that mistake in the fight, I just kind of wanted to see what it felt like, and man, it's even worse. I got lucky getting out of there early. He's a phenomenal jiu-jitsu guy, and now he's a phenomenal friend and coach, so I'm excited to be underneath him, and I can't wait to visit down in Oklahoma. But yeah, man, I fought some tough guys, and I beat some really good guys, and I've lost to some, but it's the fight game, man. I'm proud of it either way.
Biggie, thanks so much for doing this. Great catching up with you. Best of luck next Saturday. We're all going to be watching it. It is Triller Promotions, Jake Paul, Ben Askren. Anyone you want to thank, man? Any social media you want to plug or any sponsors? I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, thank you, man. I just want to say thank you to all the people who have continued to support me throughout my entire career. Haven't been able to be as active as I probably would have liked or should have been. But I've had some other opportunities and great things pop up in my life. So shout out to my family. My mom, I always, got to put her out there. I love her. I miss her. I haven't been able to visit her as much. We're traveling a lot and stuff like that. I don't want to put her at risk of anything. But I just want to thank, obviously been asking for the opportunity to, help him in this thing and kind of venture along this crazy world on this boxing YouTube kind of extravaganza we're on right now. But other than that, man, just thank you to Hiawatha Fire Department for being understanding and allowing me to handle my outside stuff, as long with making sure that I'm there as much as possible. And then Hard Drive Performance, my gym in Cedar Rapids, where Eric Koch and Keone Koch and Brent Stepanek are my business partners and owners and friends, and they've let me step away from being at work to do this. So I'm just appreciative of people allowing me to go through this process and have fun and live the life that I get to live. So just thank you.